Da-da-da-da-da-dee. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is the Farsi Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. It is absolutely wonderful to have you along for the ride on the heels of the Phillies sweeping the New York Mets in a 4-game series. Jesus Luzardo, perfect after that first inning. Perfect after that 4-run, 5-hit first inning. Bunch of goose eggs after that in the hit column, the error column, the walk column, hit by pitch column. No better way to say it than he was perfect for 7 innings after he was very imperfect for 1 inning. And the Phillies bats picked him up after that. We'll get into the Phillies being able to complete that sweep in dramatic come-from-behind fashion, down 4-0 to winning 6-4 and completing the sweep and extending their lead in the division to 11 games. But the bigger story there is a number of five. Magic number is now 5 for the Philadelphia Phillies. How about that? And then the Philadelphia Eagles visit the Kansas City Chiefs because, once again, God forbid, the Eagles host the Chiefs in South Philadelphia. And I have a great feeling about this game. I was on Kansas City radio yesterday, and they asked me about, the big thing in this game. The big thing for me, we're going to let you hear from Saquon Barkley today, but the big thing for me is Jalen Hurts. I don't think Steve Spagnuolo is going to shift focus here. I think he understands that Saquon Barkley can absolutely 1,000% take over a game, bleed the clock, and just run roughshod all over you. I don't think he's all of a sudden going to be like, all right, we're not going to let Jalen Hurts beat us. Now, Jalen Hurts said in his first press conference of the new year that you have to pick your poison if you're a defensive coordinator. If you're a defense in general, you got to pick your poison. You're going to stop Saquon Barkley, you're going to stop our run game, or you're going to stop me and this passing game. Well, they picked their poison in the Super Bowl, and they died. To use a term from Jan Gorham, of course. They died. It was terrible if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan. Fortunately for us, we're not. So they asked me, what's the biggest thing that the Eagles got to do? And I'm like, executing the passing game. Because I don't expect it to be as bad as it was in the Super Bowl for Saquon Barkley, where it was 25 carries, 2.3 yards per carry. That sucks. All right. If you were to tell me those are the numbers, I'd be like, I guess Saquon and the offensive line had a really bad game. Well, they were keyed in on stopping him. They weren't going to let Saquon Barkley and the Eagles' run game beat them that day. So Jalen Hurts said, thank you very much, and aired it out and became the Super Bowl MVP. I don't think Steve Spagnuolo is really going to shift from that philosophy because I think most teams in the NFL, regardless of how good Jalen Hurts is, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they're still going to take their chances with that as opposed to take their chances with Saquon Barkley just owning the clock throughout the game. So I think it's going to be the same mentality. They're going to be doing different things. I mean, Steve Spagnuolo is no fool. They're not going to go about it the same way. They might try to disguise things a little bit differently. They might try to shift things a little bit differently, but they're not going to do the same exact thing. And the philosophy is going to stay the same. Try to stop Saquon and force a mistake from Jalen Hurts. That's what I believe the game plan is going to be for Steve Spagnuolo. It's going to be very similar to what it was in the Super Bowl, just reworked a little bit. So they asked me yesterday, what's the key? And I go, the passing game. The passing game. The number one thing I'm looking at in this game is Jalen Hurts versus this secondary. It's the number one thing. Would I love for Saquon Barkley to break free in this game and have a 75-yard run or, come up with 166 yards, whatever it might be, and 2 touchdowns? I would love to see that. That's fun. That's a great time. And that also means, again, you're controlling the clock if the run game's working well for you. But when you're coming off a performance where you had like 6 targets to your wideouts and your best wideout, A.J. Brown, didn't have a target till the final minute 51 of the game, then I'd kind of like that quarter to be put in the machine, and this just might be the secondary to do it against, considering Justin Herbert just lit him up for 318 yards in the opener, their opener in Tampa last week. I think this is going to be an opportunity for the Eagles' passing game to get right. The Eagles' run game, I have extreme confidence is going to be there throughout the year. The run game never scared me last year at all. Never. Even before the bye week, where everyone wants to act like, oh, man, that run game, they didn't really trust the run game until after the bye week. Well, yeah, they relied more heavily on it. They identified themselves as to what they really are. They familiarized themselves from what they really are, which is a run team when you have this historic combination here. I look at the passing game going into this Kansas City Chiefs game and say, this is a chance for A.J. Brown to break loose. This is a chance for Devontae Smith to break loose. Dallas Goedert did not practice again yesterday due to the knee injury. It is so awful. It's awful. Absolutely awful that this guy just can't stay healthy. Eagles offensive line also having an issue here when you talk about Landon Dickerson and the status of his back and how it's gonna affect this game, and Brett Toth's in there, what you're gonna see in that regard. There's all these things that go into it, but the number one thing I think the Eagles are going to try to do is try to establish the run. And when Steve Spagnuolo has that bottled up, similarly to the way he did in the Super Bowl, they're then going to shift to the passing game. And that might not even be a concerted effort by the entire offense in terms of coaching staff and game plan. That just might be Jalen Hurts doing exactly what he did in the Super Bowl, which is, okay, they're stacking the box here against Saquon. All right, we'll try it. We'll see if we can still get here. Nope. Okay. All right. I'll throw the ball downfield to A.J. Brown, Jahan Dotson, Devontae Smith. I think we'll be okay in that regard. All in all, I don't see the Kansas City Chiefs as being that good a football team again. One of the biggest reasons, as a matter of fact, other than the fact that the Eagles were just a dominant football team last year, historically dominant football team last year. One of the big reasons why I thought the Kansas City Chiefs were, again, it's the biggest regret I have in terms of predictions ever. I told you guys this before. I never felt like the Kansas City Chiefs belonged on the same football field as the Philadelphia Eagles last year. Going into that Super Bowl, I had this gut feeling that the Eagles were going to blow them out. And I'm like, no, don't do that. That's a homer pick. It's Andy Reid. It's Steve Spagnuolo. It's Patrick Mahomes. All that stuff. It's Chris Jones still. It's all these really talented players. So don't, that's a homer pick. I so regret not just saying they were going to blow them out. I don't see the Eagles blowing them out, but I do see the Eagles being in control and being the better football team because they are the better football team. It's amazing to me that Patrick Mahomes is going to have Xavier Worthy most likely for this game. When people were talking about, is he going to have surgery? Is he going to be on the IR? What's going to be the? And then he's at practice yesterday. What the hell, man? You talk about Juju Smith-Schuster. You talk about Xavier Worthy. You talk about Hollywood Marquise Brown, who, by the way, lit it up in that first game. 99 yards. Well, lit it up. 99 yards. He had a hell of a game there against the Chargers. But that is still one hell of a receiving core. Oh, yeah, and that Taylor Swift's fiance guy. I don't know. I think I'm familiar with his brother. But anyway, they got him as well. So their receiving core is still stacked, and they're going to be going up against a secondary that obviously had some holes last week. That one hole was named Dory Jackson, unfortunately. But I'm looking at this defense as the Achilles heel for the Eagles. But I look at the offense as an offense that can outscore anybody in the NFL. Anybody in the NFL. So the way I see this game breaking down is I see the Eagles winning this game 31-27. I think the Eagles win this game. I think they're in control most of it. I think the Chiefs rally similar to the way they did against the Chargers. And I know a lot of other people put a lot of stock into the idea of, the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes never started the season 0-2. Hasn't lost 3 games in a row, including the Super Bowl, it would be. Like, that doesn't happen. Well, there's a first time for everything. Sorry about your luck. That's honestly how I feel about this game. And I see the Eagles as being a hyper-focused team. And the reason I don't see this as a blowout is because let's acknowledge something here. And Saquon Barkley even talked about this in his locker yesterday. These aren't the same football teams. The Chiefs aren't as good as they were last year. And the Eagles, defensively speaking, aren't as good as they were last year. Why 27 points? Why 28 points? Why such a close game if I have such high regard for the Eagles offense? Well, because I got high regard for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I didn't even mention Patrick Mahomes slinging it to the wide receiving core I just talked about and the tight end they have as well. I didn't even mention that. Patrick Mahomes is pretty good at football. He's Dory Jackson exploded. That's how that's going to go. And this Eagles defense is nowhere near the same Eagles defense that we saw in the Super Bowl. Why can you expect the Chiefs to just have a really good offensive day? Well, because you don't have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson at safety. You don't have Josh Sweat potentially bringing down Patrick Mahomes. You don't have Brandon Graham coming off the edge with almost a rallying cry coming back from his tricep injury. You don't have Darius Slay on the outside. It's much different defense. You got a rookie. Like, think about this. If you're Andy Reid, and you know Todd Campbell is a talented rookie, you're still going to try to make him make rookie mistakes, and you're going to try to exploit that. This isn't the same defense the Eagles had last year, unfortunately. Did they come off a shutout in the second half against the Cowboys? Absolutely they did. That's the Cowboys. This is the Kansas City Chiefs. And even in that Cowboys game, CeeDee Lamb doesn't come up with a case of the dropsies. We're talking about a much different second half. So I give far more respect to the Kansas City Chiefs than I do the Dallas Cowboys. And I have to acknowledge the holes that are in this Eagles defense. And if you're a rookie safety in Drew Makuba, you mean to tell me Andy Reid, you mean to tell me Patrick Mahomes aren't going to scheme something up to get out over the top? I feel like in this game you're going to miss a lot of the defensive players that left in the offseason. This game is going to be a great measuring stick for the guys that are here now. And that's why, offensively speaking, I want to see what Jalen Hurts in this passing game can do against Kansas City Chiefs. I still would love, even in the scenario, it was such the perfect scenario, really, that Super Bowl, where run was getting stopped. Again, 2.3 yards per carry, 25 carries. The Eagles didn't abandon the run that game. You know why they didn't abandon the run? Because they wanted the Kansas City Chiefs to keep on thinking, hey, we're still going to run the football. You better keep 8 in the box. And opening things up again in the passing game. But for me, after watching the passing game in this game coming up against the Chiefs, after that, I'm going to be looking at Nolan Smith. I'm going to be looking at Jalen Hunt. And I'm going to be looking at Jalen Carter in the middle of that defensive line. Because we didn't get to see it in week 1. We did not get to see the impact Jalen Carter was going to have to kind of be the high tide that would raise the ships around him. One of the things we've talked about when we knew Adoree Jackson was going to be one of your corners, or you were going to have somebody struggling to be CB3 or CB2 in nickel coverage, we talked about, all right, well, you could kind of grade these guys on a little bit of a curve, and you could call that the Jalen Carter curve, matter of fact, because when Jalen Carter's in the middle of that line of scrimmage, everything is expedited for the quarterback. You drop back to pass, you got to be thinking where Jalen Carter's at. You got to be thinking if that double team is working in front of you. You got to be thinking if Jordan Davis is breaking through something. You got to be thinking about whether or not Nolan Smith is coming off the edge. All those things have to be on rotation. And potentially Zadarius Smith doing it as well. All those guys that might have the startup costs, whether that be in the secondary, whether that be in the edge rusher position, all those guys that have the startup costs, it could be dwindled how much it costs to start him up by the impact of Jalen Carter on the interior of this defensive line and what he can have impact-wise on the offensive line. After the passing game, number one thing I'm looking at is this defensive line and how Jalen Carter is the anchor to it. Because if he can be disruptive and he can make everything easier for Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt and Josh Uche and maybe Zadarius Smith, all these guys, if he can make things easier, the Eagles are going to have this win. I do, again, give a lot of credit, though, to the Kansas City Chiefs as one hell of an offense. This ain't the same game as the Super Bowl. Let's talk about Saquon Barkley again. Because he was one of the first to acknowledge when he was asked at his locker yesterday about, hey, what do you notice we put on the film to look at this Dallas Cowboys team versus last year? What jumps out to you?
And what I knew going into the Super Bowl, and definitely what I experienced in the Super Bowl, they're really good. They're really good. For me, I look forward to it. It's going to be a challenge. But, there's things running backs can do to set up blocks, and you can tell and watch film of guys who aren't disciplined, and I can manipulate them. And if I'm able to manipulate them, and with the offensive line that we have, we put a lot of teams in trouble. They don't really do that. So it forces me to be disciplined, take what they give me, not only in the run game, but just in the offense in general. Being patient, it's kind of a thing for us this week. And when we get the opportunity, make them pay for it.
One of the things that was a repeating theme of yesterday was one block away. Jordan Mailata at his locker yesterday. Well, one block. I felt like we were one block away. We're one block away from really bringing Saquon. And yeah, probably that's generally how it is, especially when you have, not even 100 yards, not even 80, but not even 70 yards in a game, and you average 3.3 yards per carry, the way Saquon Barkley did in week 1. And you also have concerns about Landon Dickerson. If the Eagles are able to establish the run and establish that as a threat in this game, well, then, yeah, they're going to be in control and they're going to dominate. I still think that Steve Spagnuolo knows how to contain Saquon. But if the Eagles can get out there and make that one block, finish that one block, get out off the line of scrimmage and make blocks downfield the way we know Cam Jurgens can, then we can very much be talking about a different game. And that's a game that's more similar to the Super Bowl. I'd love for that to be the case. Again, you talk about things in the past of Patrick Mahomes not starting 0-2, Patrick Mahomes not losing 3 games in a row. Well, yeah, there's a first time for everything. But if the Eagles are going to continue dominance from last year into this year, not just in the Super Bowl, but in the regular season, well, then you got to rely on the guys that can certainly raise everybody's game. Saquon Barkley's that guy. Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, everybody on this offensive line, and also, again, to reference Jalen Carter again. You get that one more block, yeah, you could spring Saquon. But to go back to it, as well as you might know him, it was also interesting this week, by the way, to hear Eagles players talk about playing the Chiefs like it was a division game. Like you play them every year now for the last 3 or 4 years. It feels like a division game where both sides know each other, that whole thing, and it goes beyond, well, Andy Reid used to coach here. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Steve Spagnuolo used to coach. Oh, really? I didn't know that. It goes well beyond that now, to the point where it's a divisional game for these guys. But as much respect as I have for the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't respect them enough to the point where I think they're going to win this game. I say, again, the Eagles win this game 31-27. Some of it's going to be a bit of a, grind out type of game. But I think the Eagles are in control. And I think it's very noticeable that they're the better football team throughout this game. So I look forward to it. That's what I got. Give me your predictions in the comments, please, and thank you. We'll continue to break it down throughout the show. I do. Oh, my goodness. Guys, the Phillies and Mets series was the most fun I had watching baseball this year. As most of you know, I do the postcast for Locked On Sports, and this season has been fun. We have certainly had our ups and downs, but to look at the second week of September and face the Mets after the Mets just spanked you for 6 games at Citi Field this year. You get them for 4 games towards the end of the season, again, second week of September. And game 1, Aaron Nola goes out there and deals 6 scoreless innings. Who the hell saw that coming? You beat their Wonder Boy rookie in Nolan McLean 1-0. Then you see Ranger Suarez 6 scoreless. Hold my beer, Aaron Nola. Phillies come out with a victory there as well. And then Christopher Sanchez gets shelled. How dare he allow 1 run, break the trend set by Phillies starters before him in this series. But they get the win. Comfortably, I might add. And then Jesus Luzardo yesterday. 23 pitches in the first inning, which is not a boatload of pitches. We've seen worse. But allows 4 runs on 5 hits. He was perfect. Jesus Luzardo was perfect for 7 innings yesterday. Inning number 1, not so good. Innings after that, leading up to the 8th, pretty good. 8 innings, 4 runs. All those runs came in the first. 5 hits. All those hits came in the first. No walks, no errors, no hit batsman. Dazzling. He was in the zone. I don't remember where it originated, but flow state. I love that term. You're in the groove, man. The baseball looks like a beach ball. In basketball, the hoop looks like it's a hula hoop, that kind of thing. It just, you could throw it in there, no problem. Like you're in the zone, man. Jesus Luzardo was in every bit of the zone, 10 strikeouts. Even the final 2 outs of the first inning, and it felt like every ball was hit hard. He gets that comebacker, line drive hit at him. He gloves it, turns to second, turns 2 in that. So he saves his pitch count and obviously saves some more runs because that might have been a line drive up the middle if he's unable to make the play or, ricochets off his mitt, whatever. Another run scored. It was wild, but he made it happen. And after that, 22 batters retired in a row, including that, I should say. Absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable to see the way he settled in. Like, forget about even settling in. He was perfect. I mentioned many times with Taijuan Walker having allowing big first innings. I mentioned all the time. He's like, one of my favorite phrases in this part is he settled in after that. Well, he didn't settle in. Jesus Luzardo didn't settle in after that. He dominated after that. Like, the first inning was a distant memory. And then, as great as that is, because I just got done saying this about Taijuan Walker as well. Like, if you go and you pitch 5 scoreless innings after a 4 or 5 run first inning, you still allowed those runs. How dare you? The offense has to pick you up. So there was a couple of things after that first inning with Jesus Luzardo that stuck out to me. One was 23 pitches. I was like, wow, 4 runs, 5 hits, only 23 pitches. Okay. Give me something here. Settle in. I didn't expect perfection, but we got it. And then the other thing was they were facing David Peterson, who had gotten rocked in his last handful of starts. So I had confidence the Phillies would be able to put up runs on him. There was some timing issues with his curveball in particular. Kyle Schwarber was flailing away at it. Bryce Harper had some issues with it. But Phillies got a jolt from Otto Kemp, down 4-0. He hits the home run in the 4th inning to make it 4-2. Then the Phillies get an RBI double for Bryce Harper. And then I think it was the 6th inning yesterday, the Phillies just absolutely turned it on and started just wailing on pitching. And Harrison Bader, of all people. Otto Kemp, by the way, the 2-run home run was 2 of his 3 RBIs in the 6-4 win, come from behind win. Harrison Bader put him in front with the RBI single, and then Bryce Harper hit a hot shot grounder up the first baseline that Pete Alonso couldn't handle. Polar bear and those massive claws couldn't handle it. Another run scores for a little insurance. And the Phillies Joan Duran comes in. Easy. It's just absolutely. I feel like this series, you took the Mets' soul. They're now, a game and a half? I think they're a game and a half behind. No, game and a half in front of the the San Francisco Giants, who just wrapped up a series with the Arizona Diamondbacks for the final wild card spot. Phillies have an 11-game lead on them in the division. Phillies' magic number now is 5. This is incredible. Absolutely incredible. I don't think the most optimistic Phillies fan going into this series would have said sweep. And if you did, your friends were all around like, they're not going to sweep. They might win 3 or 4 because they're better at home, but they're not going to sweep. Nola's going to get rocked. That's a terrible pitching matchup. Well, it's cliche, but it's cliche because it's true, and that's why they play the games, kids. That's why they play the games. And the Mets, meanwhile, are sitting there thinking,
take away the scoreboard.
Good times. Phillies start a series with the Kansas City Royals. It's all Kansas all the time. All Kansas City, that is. But yes, hit me with your prediction before I get to the chat check in a second. Thursday Night Football. Jaden Daniels guy, I like him. He's good at playing quarterback and stuff. But man, he had a rough go of it against the Green Bay Packers. Packers won last night. There was some last-ditch efforts, if you want to call it that, for the Washington Commanders trying to get back in that game. But that game, speaking of games that were controlled throughout, that game was controlled throughout by the Green Bay Packers. They win, what was the score? 27-18 they won last night. If you have Tucker Kraft on your fantasy football team, congratulations. He had himself a nice game, like 124 yards and a touchdown. That was pretty impressive. Zach Ertz, by the way, he had himself a touchdown reception last night. Former Eagle, of course. But Jaden Daniels struggling, and Austin Eckler torn Achilles. You never want to see that, obviously. But Jaden Daniels, I talked about this in the offseason when people were putting Jaden Daniels ahead of Jalen Hurts in their little adorable, cute lists and stuff. The second year of the NFL, that's a come to Jesus moment. Second year of the NFL is a harsh dose of reality for a lot of guys. And it's humbling. That's the word I'm really looking for here. Humbling. Jaden Daniels might go through that. I'm not just saying this because of one game, against a good opponent in the Green Bay Packers on the road on Thursday night. That's not the only reason why. I was saying this in the offseason. I think he's a very good quarterback. But I think you're absolutely banana sandwich crazy about the fact that he's better than Jalen Hurts, about the idea that he's better than Jalen Hurts. I told you guys after week 1 as well, Jared Goff, people had above Jalen Hurts. Dumb. That's a dumb thought. The one of the best jokes of the offseason was anybody having Jared Goff ahead of Jalen Hurts. Same thing for me when it comes to Jaden Daniels. Like, man, rookie admiration is just so adorable with some people. But the Commanders, bottom line, took a loss last night, and that's good news for the Philadelphia Eagles. Hey, let me tell you about the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, and get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. You want to go to the game, the concert, the comedy show, download the Game Time app and have yourself a good time. Use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase. How about the incredible people at Sky Motor Cars? Check out Brett's amazing inventory at skymotorcars.com. And how about Philadelphia Sports Nation, PHL Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. Oh, that's PHLSportsNation.com. Let's get into the chat check. Sean Gillespie, good morning. No Mets voodoo works in Philly, apparently. It is so much fun to just watch the Mets be sad. It's just so much fun. And it's particularly yesterday, by the way, to see the Mets struggle in the manner in which they struggled with Jesus Luzardo, who had 10 strikeouts. And if you're a Mets fan waking up this morning, you just had nightmares about Otto Kemp. How's that feel? Rye, good morning, Farzy and friends. Why did the show start so early? I got a Fox hit today. Scoozy. Rye, Farzy didn't sleep last night. Espresso breakfast. I mean, I always have an espresso breakfast. See, the only time I can eat breakfast is if I did not eat dinner the night before. If I didn't eat dinner, then I'll have breakfast. But if I had dinner, then I won't eat breakfast. I know it's the most important meal of the day. I'm just not a big breakfast guy. Because here's the thing: when I start eating, and I'm hungry, I heard Seinfeld describe it once as pull the pin. Once I pull that pin, oh man, watch out, that kind of thing. Yeah, once I pull the pin on breakfast, then it's just like, you know what? I'll have 3 more eggs, 7 more sausage links, and you know what? I walked for 5 minutes today, so that's 3 pieces of bread. Oh, my neighbor makes this great sourdough bread, and every once in a while she'll drop over a fresh thing of sourdough bread. Oh my God! Oh, that olive oil. I'll see you next week. I'll just crush that whole loaf of bread in one sitting. Sean Gillespie, love Goddard, but looking at last night's game, Ertz is looking good. Ertz has looked good for a long time. Like, people don't realize Ertz is like historically good tight end. And I've always said this about Zach Ertz. His time in Philadelphia, this is a guy who had a game-winning catch in the Super Bowl, and it's like the 3rd best play of the game in people's memories. Philly special, Brandon Graham strip sack. But the guy who had the game-winning touchdown, oh, yeah, that's right. He had the game-winning. It's amazing to me. And also, like, his historical season in Philadelphia was marred because it was marred by the Carson Wentz. Oh, he's just targeting Zach Ertz all the time. He's just targeting Zach Ertz. Well, Zach Ertz is pretty good, like, for the record. I have said this for a long time. Most underappreciated Philadelphia athlete maybe ever. Maybe ever. He doesn't stiff arm. Yeah, well, he makes plays. Johan Duran has converted 14 of his. Oh, Sean, thank you, Sean Kilrain. Johan Duran has converted 13 of his 14 save opportunities with the Phillies. Hasn't given up any runs in 15 of 17 appearances for the Phils so far. By the way, on that note, listen to this. They showed this stat last night, and again, if you're a Mets fan, oh man, drink your tears. Trade deadline acquisitions. All right, listen to this. Cedric Mullins, who, as I said at the time, that's a bad acquisition. Harrison Bader, I didn't have high expectations for. I didn't say it was bad. I thought they needed to do more, and obviously I was wrong with that. But Cedric Mullins, 183 batting average, 1 home run. Ryan Helsley, holy pots and pans, an 11.08 ERA since being acquired with an 0-3 record. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia post-trade deadline, Harrison Bader, 4 home runs with a 346 batting average. Johan Duran, 12 of 13 with a 1.32 ERA, 17 strikeouts. And David Robertson, who wasn't a trade acquisition, but was an acquisition around that time. David Robertson, 2.84 ERA, 18 strikeouts, 5 walks. I did say at the trade deadline that the Phillies had a better trade deadline than the New York Metropolitans. That's for sure. How about that? Kevin, hello. Sean Kilrain, hello. Can't imagine any teams in baseball history have started the game 5 for 6. Oh, and then went 0 for 24. Yeah, that is pretty wild. Jalen Carter, 28-20. Okay, here's your prediction. 28-20. Jalen Carter takes his frustration out on Kermit Mahomes. Oh, why you guys don't block that guy? I don't know. AJ and Slim Reaper do damage. I agree. Sean, you and I are on the same line of thinking. April. Good morning, April. Sean Curran, who do you see stepping on offense and defense for the Eagles? Stepping up, you mean? Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. Those are the 2 guys that I think have a big game. Those are the guys I see stepping up defensively. Offensively, I think A.J. Brown just has himself a good time. I think A.J. Brown has himself a real good time. And which would also mean that so does Jalen Hurts. Ailsa Miller, hello. Bright and early, good morning. Joe, hello, Joe. Mets going to Met. Great show. Oh, thank you, Earth's Repair. Appreciate you. Sean Coonerrain, 6 unanswered runs for the Phillies. How about that? Sean Gillespie, the Micah Parsons clip never gets old until we play the Packers. Right? Sean, could you imagine if saying that to Green Bay fans? Forget about the scoreboard. I'm sorry, what? So we got to love this. Whenever they want to use, I'll be happy. Our goal is to win the World Series. Jesus Luzardo. As far as the rotation. Guys are making a strong push to be in that playoff rotation. Daniels can't see zone defense when rushed. Rye, cracking the code. See Packers fans in shirtless in the stands, drinking and vaping, only in this country. I love Green Bay. One of my greatest joys in my professional career is going to Green Bay at least once a year for 11 years and seeing the progression of that stadium while still keeping the core feel of that stadium. I love that stadium, Lambeau. I mean, it's hard not to love it, but when you make the renovations to a place like that and it's still as awesome, it's pretty special. Darth Bader, love it. Jason A, hello. Oh, we're on, baby. We're on. Smelling a close game, 27-20, 24, says Rye. There you go. Packers defense looks really good, too. They absolutely do. I give them credit for that. Absolutely. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are great, as per usual. Back with you guys with Locked On 76ers at 10 o'clock this morning, and then Locked On Phillies postcast following Kansas City Royals versus the Philadelphia Phillies. Again, 31-27, Eagles win this game. See you guys tonight. Bye.
Ugh.